the principle of the one is being itself. So being represents existence itself, which is spirit gem. And but it also represents the non-dual nature of consciousness, because God is the eternal witness. God is the subject or the I within us that's having an experience, but that I cannot be excluded from everything else because it's non-local and it's non-dual. So just like unconditional love is non-dual, there's no conditions there. It is ever-present witnessing or awareness. Two is the beginning of duality, which is the inherent nature of love and relationship and mind. Three is the capacity for dreaming and manifesting, which is the classic Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or potential spirit matter. There's many trinities that I share in Spirit Gym, so people can see it from a philosophical, scientific, and religious perspective. Four is the principle of manifestation, 4 elements, the 4 cycles of Om, the 4 doctors we all need to understand: Dr. Happiness, Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Movement.
4 life process archetypes.
The 4 life process archetypes: child, warrior, king, queen, and wise man, wise woman. It's the 4 elements of alchemy: earth, water, fire, and air.
4 seasons.
4 seasons. So the 4 is really the number of completion, but 4 really symbolizes how does dreaming and thinking come into manifestation. And when we understand that, we can actually see how we're manifesting things all the time. And if we're not conscious, then we keep thinking somebody else did it to us. So it's easy to become a victim. 5 is the number of basically process. So 5 in a process is that middle stage. If you look at Hegel's philosophy, Hegel says everything begins as a thesis, an idea, a goal, a dream, an objective. Then we go through the process of manifestation, but we always come into antithesis. You know, your widget turns out not to work quite as well, or the materials aren't strong enough, or there's always a process. You start a marathon, and by the time you get halfway, you're wondering, can I really make it to the end of this thing? So the antithesis is the challenge stage, and that's where you really do the work of growth in Spirit Gym. But 5 is also the Hierophant, which is the spiritually intact mentor guide that takes us through the challenge of the hero's journey.
And or then the heroine's journey.
Or the heroine's journey. And then there's 5 program design factors we all have to be aware of, which I described, so that if we're developing a program for, healing addiction or healing trauma or getting fit in the gym or changing our diet or our lifestyle, we understand these inherent 5 program design factors, because if you miss any one of them, the chances of success go down drastically. 6 is the 6 foundation principles: nutrition, hydration, sleep, breathing, thinking, and movement, which are foundational to life, and mistakes there cost you. 7 is the 7 chakras and the principles of the spirit and the soul, and how, so I share the anatomy and physiology of the spirit and the soul, so people really understand what they are saying when they use those words, and how to have a relationship with your own spirit and soul, so you have God within you, because God is the only potential source that can give a soul. All souls are God manifest. 8 is the principle of self-reflection. So we realize how important it is to take time to introspect and to review what we're creating. And that really goes back to one of the key principles of the 3, which is the 3 qualities of the soul. The 3 qualities of the soul are abiding, which is the witnessing function of God; to reflect, which means the soul has memory, and we can look back on what we've created and ask ourselves, is that what we want to keep creating, or do we want to create something new or that's more supportive of what we need now? And the soul also represents. So the soul abides, reflects, and represents. So the principle of the 8 is all about reflection. And so here you have practices like meditation, journaling, shadow work, looking at beliefs that may not be serving us anymore. So the 8 is the process of inner work and bringing our consciousness inside and working with our inner systems, our inner beliefs, our emotions.
I love the 8th because to me it's the moon.
It is the moon, yes,
Yeah.
and it's tarot 18
Yeah.
it's very
Like a moon
tarot 18
archetype. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, look, the function of reflection is the world is always changing. Buddha said the only law of the universe is impermanence, but the ego likes to create the illusion of permanence. So, for example, if you're married and you think you actually know who your spouse is, that's the day that the relationship starts to die, because
Yep.
you actually create a fixed idea in your mind. But it can take you an entire lifetime, and you still may not truly know the person inside that you're married to, and they may not know themselves yet. So the process of the 8 is saying, what is reality? What is reality offering me? And I describe reality as what's happening right now, and reality is everything that you need to support your life, because without food, water, and air, for example, it doesn't matter what reality is, we won't be here. So when we're reflecting, we're always having to say, what is my dream? How am I doing at managing myself to be dream affirmative? And what are the demands of reality as the world is constantly changing? And that means we have to be careful about belief systems, because belief systems are inherently closed by nature. As I say, how much Buddhism could you put in the Bible before it wasn't Christianity anymore? Well, none. Not really, or you would have two religions in one book. So dogmas were always inherently systems of belief developed by the founders of religions to try to codify the key principles and practices that made the religion what it is. But Christianity is over 2,000 years old. So there you see an outdated myth. Nobody in the time of Jesus would have had a clue what a cell phone was, for example. In fact, they probably would have thought it was some kind of a miraculous trinket that fell out of a rock formation somewhere because it was shiny. And they were riding around on horses and donkeys and vehicles with wooden wheels. But here we are still trying to run this old, outdated software in a time of radically different needs. And, look at, as we've discussed, you and I many times, just look at the differences between the relationship between men and women in the time of the Bible and men and women now, and if you're still running on that outdated reality, then you're probably not going to have a very healthy relationship with a woman at all. And so we have this capacity to reflect, to introspect, to dream, and to represent. That's an inherent quality of the soul. Who do I choose to be today? The Paul Chek that I was a year ago isn't the same Paul Chek I am now. And I wouldn't want to go back to that one, even though he was doing the best he could. Every day I can learn and grow and go deeper into my connection with my soul and my spirit and God within me, and become more conscious of the ways of living and relating than I was a year ago. And so it turns out that that's real, where most of the work of spiritual growth is saying, what could I do better to be more congruent with love? And how can I represent myself so I'm not only congruent with love, but I'm congruent with reality?
Mm-hmm.
The principle of the yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what is the self? It's everything, right? None of us can be here without the whole. The principle of the 9 is a new level of awareness. So now that you've gone through these stages, you have your myth, you understand the importance of asking the question, is it true? You know how to think holistically, you know how to dream, you know the importance of dreaming and setting goals, you know how to take responsibility for yourself, you know how to create your own program for self-development. 9 says, now that you've got all this, you're at a new state of awareness. What are the things you need to do to make sure you don't fall off the wagon and become the person that you've just outgrown, which is, because there's a real center of gravity to society, right? Misery loves company. And, if we don't have a big enough dream, then we don't have a sense of levity to pull us out of the inertia of program beliefs and behaviors.
And that lighthouse that lighthouse, something that you're aiming towards. It gives you direction.
You need a North Star on your compass because, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
It's how you make your choices. It's like, okay, is this dream affirmative? I mean, that's a question we can ask ourselves 20 times a day. Every decision we have to make. Is this getting me closer to my dream or further from my dream?
Yes.